The D's, folks. Defense, discipline. Both came into play in this one as Minnesota Wild get a 4-2 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. How about Fleury? How about that top line? How about this Minnesota Wild squad picking up another road win? 5-0-2 now on the season. We got a lot to get to here tonight. We'll talk special teams. Bit of a journey tonight. We'll talk about the first adversity of the season and the Minnesota Wild answering that as well. With a little love for the Fleur. All on tonight's Locked On Wild postcast. Let's get this fired up.
You are Locked On Wild postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Minnesota Wild pick up a 4-2 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning in this one tonight. And, I mean, it just continues, folks. And it is a clearly repeatable formula for this Minnesota Wild team. Early lead. We did see the stretch to start the season snapped where the Wild did not trail at any point, but we knew that that was going to happen at some point this season. We knew that wasn't going to be something that happened the entirety of the year. The Wild gave up a couple of goals in the second period. They trailed 2-1. I said it on Twitter at the time. Would be nice for the Wild to be able to weather this and to get this game to the second intermission, at least at this 2-1 spot. If you can pick up a goal, that's great. Guess what they did? Joel Eriksson Ek scores to make it 2-2. Minnesota Wilds get a power play, and that thing, when that power play is on, it's disgusting in a really good way. It's a disgusting power play, and Matt Boldy scores. The Wilds do enough to just keep the Lightning from getting really good chances, and they come away with another win as Kirill Kaprizov with an empty netter to seal it. It just, like, this is a very different looking team than what we've seen over the last few seasons. And I think we got to keep giving John Hynes major credit here, because he clearly got this team in position this year to where they have come in and have just taken care of business. So far this season, like the penalty discipline is just night and day different from what we saw even as close as last year. They don't commit penalties hardly at all. The Marcus Foligno penalty in this one was a so-so call. But the penalty kill did their job. The power play had some struggles tonight, but they did their job when it mattered. Marc-Andre Fleury let in a couple, but he made some really key saves in this one. The defense helped him out. This is a collective team effort that we continue to see from this team, and it continues to lead to wins because guess what? Tampa Bay's no slouch. That's a really good hockey team that they got down there in Tampa. They're a very intense physical team, and they did a really good job at points in this game of controlling the pace, of pushing the tempo, of relentless pressure, especially there in the third period. The Lightning just continued to throw waves of pressure at the Minnesota Wild. And what did the Minnesota Wild do? They just turned them away consistently. And it all leads to just another really quality win and a test of mettle, METTLE, for this Minnesota Wild team that they pass once again. Because it was mentioned in the broadcast, it is a pretty clear indicator is that, not everything's going to go according to plan every game this year. You're going to have some games where things don't go your way. Can you outlast that? Can you overcome that? Can you put yourself in position to be able to come away with a win at key points of the game. And the Wild did that again. And now through 7 games, they have scored first in every single one of them. And up until tonight, they hadn't trailed at any point in regulation. And now they have that off their back, but they still just continue to go on the road in tough environments and lean on that top line. It all comes down to that Kaprizov, Rossi, Zuccarello combo, being able to get it done and to put this team in position to be able to just make great passes and great plays to set up goals. That Kaprizov shot, he's the only person that can shoot from that spot. And I even say that and I realize, oh yeah, Boldy was just slightly further back from that point than Kaprizov was, but just making good plays, key timely scoring, and that's just it's the formula that just continues to be replicated here by this Minnesota Wild team. So let's just start by taking a look at the numbers here. We'll talk about the 3 keys. We'll of course get to your comments before we're done here tonight, because it is a very, very busy sports night here in Minnesota with the Vikings currently on. The Timberwolves play, I think, a couple of minutes from now. There's a lot to like from what we've seen from this Minnesota Wild team. So 4-2, the Tampa Bay Lightning had the edge in shots, 25-18. Wild were 1 for 4 on the power play. Tampa Bay 0 for 1. The things that I really like here is the face-off wins. 29 for the Wild, 23 from the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I would have to go back and really look at this, but I am pretty sure that the Minnesota Wild have either matched or exceeded their opponent in face-off wins pretty much every game this season. And, there still are going to be games where it just doesn't go according to plan there. But again, it's how do you respond and what do you do when things go a little off kilter? One of those key face-off wins was what the Wild's was exactly what led to the Wild being able to kill off that Tampa Bay penalty. You win the first face-off, you get the puck to Jonas Brodin, who goes around behind the net and just lasers a pass down, and Tampa Bay was chasing the rest of the way on that power play. So I love that. The Wild out hitting the Tampa Bay Lightning by a sizable margin tonight, 29-14. Another thing that is indicative, I think, of some better play by Marcus Foligno and Yakov Trenin. Notable performances tonight. Matt Boldy with another multi-point game. He had a goal and an assist, 5 shots on net, 2 blocked shots, and was 3 of 3 in the face-off circle with 17:42 of time on ice. Joel Eriksson Ek had a goal, 3 shots, 2 hits, 18:30 of ice time. He was 11 of 24 in the face-off circle, so 45.8% for him. Freddie Gaudreau was 4 of 5 in the face-off circle, 16:37 played, and he was mostly centering, I believe, Foligno and Trenin. Marcus Foligno tonight had 7 hits in 15 minutes, 16 seconds of time on ice. Marcus Johansson played 15:04. He did have 1 shot on goal, but just continues some really good and really strong play along the boards so far this season. He's doing a lot of really good things to help keep puck possession alive, and that's going to be the key to him keeping that spot, because we talked about it in today's episode. The first and the second lines have been pushing the pace for this team from a scoring perspective, and if he is an active participant in helping that line do that, he's going to continue to get that spot. Kirill Kaprizov, 2 goals and an assist tonight. He had 2 shots on goal, 22:09 of ice time. Marat Huznadinov, 2 blocks, played 8:57 here tonight, centering that fourth line. Jakub Lauko played 9:15, had an assist, had 2 block shots, had 4 hits, and was really pivotal to being able to help the Wilds fend off that pressure late. Got some quality time late in that game to help fend off that pressure. Liam Ogren had 2 hits in 6 minutes, 42 seconds. Also had 1 shot that missed the net. Marco Rossi, 1 assist. Had 2 shots that missed the net, had a hit. 17:35 of ice time, was 5 of 13 in the face-off circle. Yakov Trenin had 1 block, had 3 hits and a takeaway, 15:44 of ice time, and was 1 of 1 in the face-off circle. Matt Zuccarello, an assist, 2 shots, 17:47 of ice time, also 1 of 1 in the face-off circle. Defensively, Zach Bogosian was a +3 tonight. He had 1 assist. He had 1 shot, 2 blocks, 2 hits, 20:39 of ice time tonight. Jonas Brodin, an assist. He was a +2, 1 shot on net, and 23:20 on ice. Declan Chisholm, 12:56 tonight, had a block, 2 hits, and a takeaway. Brock Faber, a rare -2 for him. A shot on goal. He had a block. He had a hit and a takeaway. 25:54 of ice time. And those 2 goals happened pretty quickly in succession. So that, just one of those kind of spots in a game that just got away from the Wild a little bit. And, you learn and you move on. How about Jake Middleton tonight? 1 assist. He was a +1. He had 2 shots on goal. He had 4 blocks. He had 3 hits. 21:52 of time on ice. And just continues really, really strong play in the net for the Minnesota Wild. Just like you look at his game chart for the last few games, just really, really good stuff for the Minnesota Wild. And Marc-Andre Fleury tonight, 23 out of 25, a .920 save percentage, had 2 shorthanded saves, 21 even strength. But if you look at the indicative numbers on this one, he was slightly below goals saved above expected. I would say for Fleury tonight, you probably get a save with Gustafsson on one of those goals, but Fleury had plenty of plays tonight, plenty of good saves that he made, and it just seemed like he was a little more, I don't know what the right word is, reserved maybe, just a little more under control in this one, which led to him being able to just stay in the net more consistently. But the Wild did a really good job defensively of just looking for the puck. After Fleury made the initial save, they did a really good job of looking for the puck and looking to get the puck out of the zone once it was located. So nice team effort, nice collaboration defensively by the Minnesota Wild to be able to help Fleury after he did his job. I think that's the key. I think that's the key phrase here. After Fleury did his job, then you look for the defense to do theirs. So that was a good collaborative effort by him and the team here tonight. Now, as far as keys to the game go, let's take a look at where the Minnesota Wild ended up based on my keys to the game. First key was all eyes on Nikita Kucherov, and you look at what Kucherov did tonight. He ended up with a goal. He had just 1 shot on net. 1 shot on net and 5 giveaways. Tampa Bay Lightning could not stop giving the puck away tonight. And so even though Nikita Kucherov did score, I think I'm going to call that a win for the Minnesota Wild because there was clearly a lot of attention paid to him. And the fact that he coughed the puck up 5 times by himself, I'm going to seal that as a win for the Minnesota Wild here in today's game. So we're a check mark on that. Get to Andrei Vasilevsky early. The Minnesota Wild scored the first goal of the game once again. But let's talk about where those goals all came from. Face-off circle and in. Again, the method to the madness for the Minnesota Wild is getting to the face-off circles and in and being able to push Andrei Vasilevsky. The Wild did that, and that led to them being able to continue to win. And top line, again, continuing to push the pace. Kaprizov, 3 points. Rossi, an assist. Zuccarello, an assist. 5 points for the top line again here tonight. Can you say the top line a little dialed in so far this season? I would say so. Continuing some great chemistry, and the Kaprizov goal set up entirely by the play of Marco Rossi on the left side of the ice. So you're coming up the ice. Marco Rossi is able to push the puck around a Lightning defender, moves it up into the zone. He draws the attention of the Lightning in. He sees that Kaprizov is just camped out in his office in that right side faceoff circle. And he gets it to him. Great pass and just a great goal from Kaprizov from that circle to get it past Vasilevsky. On the Eriksson Ek goal, same thing. Good work by Bogosian and Matt Boldy to draw the attention of the Lightning in as they move. I think it was Boldy that moved behind the net. It was either Boldy or Bogosian. I can't recall. But he slid behind the net, whichever one of them it was. Slid behind the net, drew in the attention. Eriksson Ek untouched in front of the net, and he's able to tap it past Vasilevsky for the goal. And I know the power play had a rough start to the game, just couldn't really get anything going, and then you give up the shorthanded goal, and it's like, oh, what's going on here? But that final power play was fantastic. Great puck movement, and Matt Zuccarello being able to find Matt Boldy in that same Kaprizov spot, and he buries the one-timer, and that ends up being your game-winning goal. It's really good work, and it's just really good attention to detail by this team. Details and discipline is just that's the two keys for this team so far this year. It's just every game it seems like limit the penalties and just really make sure that we're making it difficult for the other team to get set up in the offensive zone. So that's my 10 cents. A nice win for the Minnesota Wild here tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And we got some great comments already here in the chat. So we're going to get to all of those, including a lot of love for Jakub Lauko. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about another solid game for Zach Bogosian. So if you've got any thoughts that you would love to share with the group, make sure to put them in the chat. We've got 69. Nice. 69 solid on a night that the Vikings and the Timberwolves are both playing. I'll take that. Celebrating a Minnesota Wild win against the Tampa Bay Lightning to improve to 5-0-2 on the season. We are just getting started, folks. More of tonight's Locked On Wild postcast coming up after this. Tonight's Locked On Wild postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season off with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, literally right now, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. We talked about it leading up to tonight's game against the Minnesota Wild, and hopefully you were feeling lucky and took the Wild to win against the Lightning here tonight. Because if you did, and it was a $5 bet, and it was your first $5 bet on FanDuel, you've got $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. You could have taken the Lightning tonight, and even though it wasn't going to be a winner, you still would have gotten $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's all it takes. $5 bet, your first bet will get you $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. So head to FanDuel.com right now to take advantage of this incredible offer. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Tonight's Locked On Wild postcast also brought to you by Game Time. We've got seasons in full swing for college football, NFL, NHL, and NBA, so there's no shortage of opportunities for you to see your favorite teams in action and eliminate all of the stress of buying tickets. Game Time makes it so easy to buy tickets. It's more time for you to figure out where you're going to eat, where you're going to tailgate, or more importantly, where you're going to spend the rest of your night after your team wins the big game. Game Time can make all of that such a blast because they make ticket purchasing so easy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Minnesota Wild pick up a 4-2 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning to improve to 5-0-2 on the season. Just getting things rolling with tonight's Locked On Wild postcast. And we got a lot of great comments to get to here today. Let's start out with some love for the bottom six. We'll start with Shark Boy Ben. Bottom six is playing strong, not giving up chances, good defense, creating energy for the next shifts by the top six. Would like to see some more goals from that unit along the way. And I agree here. I'd like to see the bottom six get in on the fun with scoring some goals for this Minnesota Wild team because as of right now, top six is doing just fine in that department. It's going to take more than just two scoring lines to be able to get it done. But you look at like line recipes for teams in the NHL. Obviously, you got your two top six lines that you're going to look to do a very heavy amount of the scoring. You want to have a defensive line that can provide some checking and be able to just throw a curveball to the other team. And I saw mentioned today something that Michael Russo tweeted out that I just had never really thought of before in trying to figure out what a fourth line does. It's momentum. You're looking for them to bring you a spark by playing hard and being able to, just turn the tide depending on how things are going throughout the course of the game. Be able to get you some key battle wins at points in the game. So you want to see that from your third and fourth line. I know we've talked, and we talked in today's episode about that third line just isn't super fleet of foot. But at the end of the day, if they throw their body weight around and can just throw the opponent off balance, I think you call that a net win for the Wild. But at this point, I think the only bottom six goal so far is Jakub Lauko. I think that's it. But here's the other part of it too. I think that is interesting. Is you look at what happened last year with having a bunch of AHL depth as your fourth line and having guys on the third line that I think were injured or just were not really, weren't really adding a ton. John Hines, I think, has really instilled that you have to be an active participant. And we've seen so many fewer inactive participant games in this in this season so far. We've seen so many fewer games where people are just kind of participants and are not actively doing things. Freddie Gaudreau, hey, go win us faceoffs. He's done that. Yakov Lauko, just go fly around, hit a bunch of things. His minutes have been very active so far this season. Murat Huznadinov, go win faceoffs. He's done that. Like, everybody is contributing a little something to the pie so far this year. It obviously at this point, the first and the second lines are eating up a lot of that pie, but I don't point to people this year and say literally not doing anything to impact the game. And I think John Hines has helped kind of right the ship in that aspect of, hey, make sure whatever your role is, make sure you go out there and you do it. Because again, on the penalty kill, I believe it was Murat Huznadinov that was the center on the penalty kill, wins the faceoff. Puck goes behind the net to Jonas Brodin. He's able to clear it, and the Lightning just are not able to get set up on the power play. So he did his job. Everybody doing their jobs to help contribute to the overall numbers that the team is putting out there. So just some much better play by the team overall, and the night and day difference for me is the discipline. Just, you don't see guys reaching to try to overcome being in bad position or getting beat to the puck on a play, because the Wild are the ones beating the other team to the puck more often than not. And I think, too, there's this understanding that if you don't do your job, if you get beat on an assignment, don't make it worse. Just move to the next play. I think that's a big key to this as well, is just move on. Mistakes are going to happen. Don't let it turn into bigger issues by just continuing to compound things. Let's go to the TJ O'Connor. Character win. Tampa punched them in the mouth and they stood firm and came back. Then they shut him down. Great game from Fleury. Freddie could have scored the empty net goal if he hadn't passed it to Foligno. That got a little dicey just because that puck was bouncing around in the neutral zone on that final empty net opportunity. But Kirill Kaprizov then just says, hey, I'm just going to go take care of this so that we can get out of here with a win. But, I like that character analogy because it reminds me kind of a boxing match. And the Tampa Bay Lightning landed a face shot on the Minnesota Wilds in the second period. And it kind of staggered them a little bit, but it didn't knock them down. And they used that to just go right on the offensive and get that game-tying goal. I think that game-tying goal to end the second period was the key. That's the key point of the game, was getting that goal to go into the room 2-2 and then go out in the third and just go grab the win. So I love the character aspect here because the Wild have a lot of character. This team has a lot of character, which is good. They have a lot of resolve. They have a lot of ability to handle adversity. We hadn't seen adversity yet so far this year, but the Wild have a really good ability to handle adversity and to just weather it and just keep pushing, keep fighting. And that's the reason that they continue to rack up these wins. Let's go to Hoptics. I think I'm falling in love with Yakov Lauko. He's like the perfect combination of grit, speed, and talent. Crazy that he was a pickup by the Wild. I could see him being a fan favorite of Minnesota. He reminds me of Brandon Duhaime, honestly. He brings all of the same sorts of things. He brings the speed, he brings the intensity, and I think he brings a really good vibe to the room. Really good vibe. And he is fit right in to the point that he is exactly what you'd hope for, a hard worker. All of the minutes that he plays, it seems, are contributing to the win. Just a lot of, just a really good, savvy move by Bill Guerin to go get him in exchange for Vinny Lettieri in the draft. Like, that was just one of those at the time where you're like, that was kind of a weird move. But as Bill Guerin mentioned in the offseason, he wanted to go get some more identity help. And I, at the time, even, I think, assumed that just meant getting players that were physical. But I think Lauko more underscores just a guy that works out, just a guy that works hard every time he's out there on the ice. I think the Wild missed a lot of that last year when they got rid of the guys like Duhaime, Dewar, and such. It's not to say that there are players that don't, but I think the Wilds just missed a little bit of that, like, go out there and just bust your ass every time you're out there on the ice. And Lauko has done that. Vinny Lettieri, as Shark Boy Ben points out, is in Providence right now. So I would say the Minnesota Wild won that trade. But here's the other key piece of that. The Wild went from, at the end of the season last year, having basically AHL guys on that fourth line to now having, like, quality NHL players up and down the lineup. And contributions aside, whether a player's contributing enough or not enough, this lineup doesn't have anybody in it right now that you're like, that dude's not an NHL guy. Every single player in that lineup is an NHL quality player, which I think has led to a lot of what we've seen so far this year. And there isn't a line out there that you're like, oh my God, this line is just overmatched. Like, everybody fits, and everybody's doing their job to help this team win. So, like it, love it. Let's go to Colton. PK looked pretty dang good today. Another game with very little penalties. And, the other thing, too, is the power play took a little while to get going. Just was disjointed through the first few opportunities. But they did their job at the end. Like, that last power play was gorgeous. I know they gave up the shorthanded goal, but that's kind of the give and take that you get with the power play. Is you hope that every time the Wild are on a power play, they're able to get set and move the puck and, generate chances. That's not the case. Some of the time, it's just not how things are going to work out. You hope that it's not a lot, but some of the times things just don't go your way. And the fact that the Wilds, they shook it off. That final power play just was a thing of beauty. Bogosian is another one that confuses me, how he ends up on the free agent list. Former 30th pick that is huge, very fast, honestly still in his prime. Roster is full of all these steals. Like, again, same thing with talking about the fourth line is last year having a line in having a fourth or sorry, I get so much going on right now with Vikings and Timberwolves. Having a third pairing of Alex Goligoski last year and John Merrill and having to rely on that consistently, not great. Third overall. Thank you, Hoptics. I just plowed right through that and was like, I'm just gonna go with whatever I feel on that. But point still stands is Bogosian, he's a cup winner. He is a player who's been around the league quite a bit. That was another good pickup by Bill Guerin. And he's not like, other than with the exception of maybe Damon Hunt, there's nobody whose spot you're like, well, he is blocking such and such player from being able to get into NHL action. None of the rest of those defensemen down in Iowa are ready for time. And so he's a guy that has come in and he's been serviceable is, I think probably a good way to put it is he has played better in a higher spot in the lineup, and he hasn't hurt the team with his play over the last several games. So there really are few things to point out that this team is doing that you are concerned by. Like, they're not committing penalties. Love that. I think the big thing that we look at right now is just, can we get a little more bottom six scoring? And I feel like with more chemistry, that will come. But beyond that, power play is doing their thing. The goaltending's been really solid. The defense is just the defense. Let's talk about the defense a little bit. Defense is playing responsible and is covering their spots and is doing just such a good job of keeping the front of the net clean. You know, you had that little breakdown where the Tampa Bay Lightning were able to get up real close. And yes, it did end up with a goal, but beyond that, the defense did a really good job of keeping Tampa Bay from the slot, from the face-off circles. They've done a good job of making sure that the goalies have clean lanes to look at and to be able to make saves. I want to get to Jordan here because let's talk about Jared Spurgeon a bit. So from the sounds of it, there was an update today. Spurgeon is going to meet the team in Philly. I think he's flying to Philadelphia tomorrow and is going to skate with the team. Whether or not he gets into that Philadelphia game, I guess we'll see. But that's got to be taken as an encouraging sign that he is meeting the team. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think he's getting closer, but I don't know if just flying I don't know if just flying out to meet the team is indicative of like he's definitely playing in Philly. I think the fact that he is meeting the team is encouraging, but I guess we'll just have to see. Ryan Hartman's still day to day, but at this point, you know, here's the other thing. At this point, the way you're playing, you don't have to rush either of those two back. And I would prefer that if, in Hartman's case, if he's dealing with something that is more than whatever, and it sounds like Hartman is sick too, which is why he hasn't been playing over the last couple of games. But you know, if it takes time for them to get back and ready, I would rather them be ready than rushed in, because Liam Ogren has taken some nice steps. We'll talk about him in a second. And the defense has played well enough that you don't need to force a less than ready to go Jared Spurgeon in there out of necessity. Let's just be proactive with the injuries. Now here's how this works from an injured reserve standpoint, because this is a good point by Alaskan Wampa. Isn't there a time limit he can be on IR though too? So the deal is that to be on IR, it's 7 days or 3 games. That's the stipulation for putting a player on IR, is that they have to miss either 7 games or 3 days. And I think it's whichever is longer. So that's why Marcus Johansson didn't get put on injured reserve. That's why Joel Eriksson Ek didn't get put on injured reserve, is because the Wild have all of these games in a real concentrated amount of time. Then if you're putting somebody on IR, they have to miss 7 days. Long-term injured reserve is 4 or more games, and I think 8 or more days. If you put somebody on injured reserve, you don't get any cap relief. You get a roster spot, I believe is the stipulation. Long-term injured reserve, then you get a portion of that cap hit to use above the salary cap. So the Wild are in a spot right now where I know this is something that last year really frustrated me, but they're in a spot this year where, those guys are just kind of hanging out. And there's always the retroactive placement on long-term injured reserve, because let's say Spurgeon doesn't play in Philly, then the Wild could go back to the 3rd game of the season and say, we're putting Spurgeon on long-term injured reserve effective there, if they need to. And yes, Trav is correct here too, is you only have a finite number of players that you can call up during the season, unless you do what the Wild did against Winnipeg, where they called up Travis Boyd under the emergency whatever it was called, because Johansson was banged up and out of the lineup and Joel Eriksson Ek didn't fly with the team. Under those emergency circumstances, you can call players up other than that standard amount of call-ups that you get. And I think it's, if I recall correctly, I think you get, after the All-Star break, you get like 4. I think it is. I think there's a number you get pre-All-Star break and post. I'll have to go look that up. But so you got to keep that in mind too. So at the end of the day, the quality of depth behind has led to not having to really worry about those guys as much. But like we talked about after the Florida game, at some point you're going to have to make a decision, because there needs to be, there's going to need to be some stuff done with that cap space if you need it. Ogren playing well enough to not be noticeable, sometimes very early on like this. It's the perfect baby step. I like. Let's talk about Liam Ogren for a little bit, because I think, and I've tried to point this out a little more regularly, there is just this learning curve that all players face when they are first brought up to the NHL level. Nobody is going to hit the ground running at the same rate as everybody else. We got pretty spoiled. Wild fans got pretty spoiled by having Matt Boldy literally jump in and just hit the ground and never look back. Same thing with Brock Faber. That doesn't happen all the time. Look at what happened to Marco Rossi, where it took him, those first 19 games. I still think you maybe bump him up in the lineup a little bit, and he maybe does a little better. But at the same time, it's that learning curve. It just took Rossi that first part of his career to be able to adjust to what it takes to consistently contribute and win at the NHL level. He went down to Iowa. He got that little taste and he said, okay, I know what I need to do. He did it. He came back and he hasn't looked back since. And so sometimes it takes players 15, 20 games to just have that light bulb moment. That's what it is. It's a light bulb moment for everybody to say, I get it. I know what I need to do now. And so I think the fact that Liam Öhgren is, and I've seen people on Twitter say that he's playing tentative. Somebody suggested even that the coaching staff had sucked all of the talent out of him, and had him playing timid because he's afraid to make mistakes, because he's afraid that he's going to lose his spot in the lineup. John Hynes ain't doing that. I'm just going to tell you, because after that quote that we read that Hynes had about Jesper Wallstedt, John Hynes doesn't give a rip if people are making mistakes. Ultimately, you'd like to limit the amount of mistakes that are made, but he's not sitting on the bench with a clipboard saying, oh boy, Liam Öhgren turned the puck over. I'm deducting points from his grade. John Hynes wants guys to go out there and play and put them in positions to be able to get NHL exposure and to learn what it takes to be an NHL guy. But at the end of the day, it takes every player a different amount of time to have that light bulb moment. One of these days, one of these games, it'll happen for Liam Öhgren. And so at this point, the fact that he's in the lineup and I'm not noticing things where it's like, oh boy, that was a bad play. Like he's out there, he's doing his thing. Like he had a couple of really good puck battles along the boards in tonight's game against Tampa Bay. That's his contribution to what's going on. Play your role, do your part, do whatever it takes to help your line contribute. And we're going to see it too. And the moment that we do, I'm going to call it out, because you're just going to see it'll almost be like the light bulb was literally there, and it'll click, and Liam Öhgren will say, I get it. I know what I need to do. And look, it may be too that when Ryan Hartman comes back, maybe Öhgren gets sent down to Iowa to get some game action in. But the key thing here is that if that does happen, John Hynes is going to say, okay, you've gotten NHL action. You've seen what it's like out there. As Bob notes, they have to get their head around how much faster transitions happen in the NHL. Faber talked about this last season. He's going to go into Iowa, or, getting a breather on the bench, whatever it may be. And he's going to say, okay, I've seen what it takes. I know what I need to do to up my game. And boom, there you go. Let's keep... if you never hear the words John Merrill during the game and you don't remember me playing, probably had a good game. Bingo. Good key. I like that. Let's get to Keith here. Ian, don't worry. I've got your line comment saved. I'll get to it here, but I'm bouncing around a little bit. Got to give some credit to the coach. Hey, full marks to John Hynes for how well he has put this team in position to be ready for this year. I had no idea what to expect from this team. I was a little hesitant because it seemed like it was just going to be, mostly the same crew, and you're just hoping that things don't go the same way that they did. But we heard it from the players. Very strenuous training camp. And John Hynes talks about being predictable. I'll talk about that in a second. But the two things that John Hynes has, I think, made the biggest difference in is getting this team to play disciplined. That is a stark contrast to what this team has done in the past. The Wild were, even last year, years before that, they were playing free and loose out there. He has tightened that up very, very consistently for this team. And let's talk about assistant coach Jack Capuano too, coming in and having a lot to do with how this defense looks so far. Defense is playing very. The word I keep going back to is responsible. They're keeping their spots, and this team is doing a far better job this year of keeping the front of the puck, front of the net clean compared to what they've done in previous years. Like, that's all coaching. And Capuano came in with fresh ideas. Hines got the full offseason to really look at this team and look at areas that need to be improved and ways to do it. It's one thing to identify a problem. It's another thing to be able to come up with a solution for it. And 5-0-2, and this is the best start to the season since 2021, 2022. And I don't know if that year, like, that's a good question. I maybe should have had that one keyed up, like looking at what we have seen in terms of a start for this team over the last few seasons. We all know what happened last year. Through 7 games last season, the Wild were 3-3-1, but that was right at about the point that the boat started taking on water. 2022, 2023, through 7 games, that season, also 3-3-1. And that season, the Wild started off 0-3 and got waxed in all 3 of those games. 7-3, 7-6, 6-3. 2021, 2022. How did that season start? 5-2. So the best start since 2021, 2022 for the Minnesota Wild, but they're doing it in some different ways with just way better discipline. And this feels way more sustainable because mistakes are going to happen. But the fact that this team put an emphasis on not going to the penalty box, that's something that it may be off for a game or two, but it will go back to, it has a much better chance to course correct than getting 70 games into the season and saying, hey, we can't commit 10 penalties a game. So major ups to John Hines for what has happened so far this season. Wild have bottom 6 scoring, just got to arrange the lines properly. Hartman, Huzi, and Lauko. Yeah, I think that could certainly play. I know the Wild like to typically play that checking line, and so I think Foligno and honestly, like, I feel like Foligno, Gaudreau, and Trenin have started to gel a bit, and so let me just see what the numbers were in 5-on-5 here. For that combination. Now, they didn't have... The Corsi numbers were not great tonight, but I don't think that's indicative of much other than that the Tampa Bay Lightning controlled more of the play. But yeah, I'll have to look at those Foligno, Gaudreau, Trenin numbers to see a little bit more about that. But I mean, that makes a ton of sense to slot Hartman into Ogren's spot. I think that's definitely a good spot to start. But we'll see. We'll see what John Hines does because it wouldn't surprise me if he goes back to Hartman, Foligno, Trenin. But then again, he has shown the propensity to do a few different things with the line combination. So we'll see what happens when Hartman returns. And then he'll be the one to make the call. I like this from Carl. They don't feel as small as a group right now. Last season, they felt physically small in size. I talked about this after the trade deadline last year when Duhaime, Dewar, and Maroon were traded. and Ryan Hartman talked about it after the season. He said that the Wild were just an easy team to play against. They were soft. Wild were soft last year. And not only do they have those guys like Foligno and Trenin to play physical, but it just seems like everybody has ramped up the physical play along the boards to start the season so far. So it has been a collective effort to be, as John Hines himself says, harder to play against by being more engaged and more physical, and just more willing to go dive into the corners, go grab a puck battle from somebody else, as opposed to just waiting and hoping that something doesn't go wrong. I think that's been a nice contrast to what we've seen so far. Boldy was the biggest steal of his draft. Legitimately might go first overall in a redraft, depending on what your needs are. Jack Hughes is good, but better than Boldy. It's going to be interesting. I would say as of right now, maybe you give I don't know. Put him even right now, but don't be surprised if 2 years from now, it's a pretty sizable lead for Matt Boldy, because I think he's third in his entire draft class in scoring right now. But there was a tweet the other day, Matt Boldy's, let me see if I can find it quick. Some of the scoring comps for Matt Boldy right now are nuts as to where his game can go if he continues to progress like he has. Like it's looking pretty good for Matt Boldy as of right now. Oh crap, I'm not going to be able to find it, am I? Well, I'll circle back to that if I do. It was in one of my group chats, and it was a while ago. But some of the comps that were thrown out, I think one of the comps that were thrown out for Matt Boldy, if he continues to like steadily progress, was Nathan McKinnon, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? But I mean, 2-3 years from now, who's to say if he continues to progress like he does? You never know. All right, some fun ones here as we're just about an hour into this postcast. Speaking of pie, banana cream and French silk are superior to the others. I'm a French silk nut, but apple and pumpkin, particularly pumpkin cheesecake, but there's still pumpkin pie in it. Apple pie, though, that apple pie is my 1.1 with a bullet. Easy. I never, there's never enough apple pie in the world. So I would say apple pie number 1, but French silk is still in my my top 5. This is a good one from the dude 9210. Do we trust Brett McLean to develop prospects in Iowa? Folks, Iowa's off to a rough start again this year. I would be lying if I didn't say that I was at least starting to get up to break the glass in case of alarm. But here's the thing with Iowa this year. They have the new GM, Matt Hendricks. Brett McLean was a previous hire. And so I think if we see another season like Iowa had last year, if we see that happen again, Matt Hendricks is going to he's going to make a change. I'm pretty confident that they will get somebody in here to take better charge of that Iowa situation. So it's I don't know, it's bizarre. I don't know why this team just continues to not be able to get it done. Like Tim Army, they were winning all the time. Now, they had a lot of good talent on those teams, and they still have good talent on these teams, but there's something that's clearly different. And so it is something to definitely keep an eye on. But, it's still just a few games in for Iowa. So we'll keep you up to date on it, but at this point, I'm more so just I would say it's a watch. If we're doing a weather, typical Minnesota, if we're doing a weather alert, it's on a watch for me right now. I'm not in a tornado warning. I'm in a tornado watch. So we'll be on high alert. Red Vine, Willy Wallaby, or Twizzlers. This is a real hard-hitting question. And I definitely botched the pronunciation. It's Wiley Wallaby. I think I gotta go with the OG. I gotta go with the Twiz, and I get the pull apart ones, not the standard red licorice. I get the giant twisty pull parts, but that also is like a 2 a.m. after a few bevies. That's a 2 a.m. snack for me. So maybe I just need to expand my. Come on, Keith. You can't put this in here. Now you're going to get me hungry. Molten lava cake. Yeah, that's. Oh, man. That's the Kirill Kaprizov of desserts for me. Man alive. You guys are making me hungry. Ian. JoJo hurt? Question mark. I haven't seen anything as of this point, but maybe the fact that I have 9 notifications on X. Let's just see here. Ooh, Ryan Carter liked my tweet about him explaining why Rossi was not offsides on the goal, even though the Tampa Bay Lightning challenged it. Have not seen anything, any indication of an injury to Johansson. We'll keep an eye on it, though. Come on, you guys. Yeah, Sour Skittles are A+. Okay, I'm gonna throw it out here. Probably gonna think I'm a lunatic. Chocolate Teddy Grahams and cake frosting. Take that on for size. Let that one rattle around a little bit, and see what you think about that as a combination. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you guys all know. We've all done it. You go buy a little tub of strawberry cake or the cream cheese cake frosting, and you go get chocolate Teddy Grahams. I can eat one of those on a night. I've done it before. What horror movies are you watching for spooky season? Halloween's my favorite time of year, folks. And you haven't been able to see it because my head is in the way, but we decorated too. Yeah, it's a pirate skull with light up eyes. Halloween's my favorite time of year. And as a result, I bring out all the OGs. Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, The Shining. We don't we get to them all. And honestly, I really dig the new Halloween trilogy, especially the first one. Hey, let's erase all this weird continuity and just go straight from the original Halloween into the 40 years later. I love that movie. Oh man, this Vikings defense. Oh, icky. Yeah. if you've got any Halloween movie suggestions, to hit me, because I can never get enough. Halloween's my favorite. Scary movies to tell in the dark. The Haunt from 2019. I like it. See, we got some Halloween elites in here. Army of Darkness. Masterpiece. Real good. Yeah, that might be it for the old Vikes, unfortunately. But hey, Minnesota Wild, they did not put on a horror show tonight. Too soon? No, never too soon. They did not put on a horror show tonight. Let's talk about a little of the action going on around the NHL. This is such a good movie. Exorcism of Emily Rose. That's so good. The Omen. Yeah, these are 200 out of 10. No notes on these suggestions. Ogren on the second line if JoJo's hurt. I think that's what we would see, Ian. I think that'd be the move by the Wilds to elevate him. Although, let's say Johansson would be hurt and Hartman would come back. Maybe. Well, we'll see. I would like to see that, but I'm gonna do something that's a little rare for me. I am going to. In John Hines we trust. Because, hey, 7 games in, he's pushing a lot of the right buttons. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye out. I would imagine we'll get an update tomorrow, because if I recall, I think the Wild are headed directly to Philly. So I would imagine we get an update on things. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And if there's any sort of an update like early Saturday morning, I'll do something to get everybody Saturday morning. We'll Iowa Professional Hockey is my horror series of choice. Yikes to Iowa. But so games that we care about, just to finish things off here. Avalanche are beating the Utah Hockey Club 4-0. Avalanche took it personally, starting off as poorly as they did. And the Utah Hockey Club, some critical injuries defensively that are going to be hard to overcome. But 4-0 after 2. Kraken are leading the Winnipeg Jets 1-0 after 1. Eyeballs there. Los Angeles Kings beating the Sharks. Everybody's beating the Sharks. The Dallas Stars, on the strength of, I think, 4 power play goals, beat the Boston Bruins 5-2. The St. Louis Blues beat the Toronto Maple Leafs 5-1. And the Florida Panthers got all hot and bothered after getting beaten by the Wild. And they beat the New York Rangers 3-1. And just to finish it off with the standings, Minnesota Wild currently tied for second, tied for first with the Jets and the Stars with 12 points. So we are in the top 3, folks. We made it. We did it. Love it. 12 points. 12 points out of 14 so far. That's impressive. Anyway you cut it up. And plus 10 in the goals department. Just 14 goals allowed in 7 games. Magnificent. Because it could be worse. You could be the Sharks at 0-5-2. You could have 2 out of 14 points. Maybe we should just take the 2 from them. Well, we'll see. I think that'll wrap it here tonight, folks. Great hanging out. Great chatting as always. Always enjoy getting the opportunity to hop in to these postcasts directly after the games and hang out with all of you and break down fun wins, break down fun moments, and also talk about different types of pie and also 2 a.m. snacks. Always fun. So appreciate everybody tuning in here tonight. Make sure to hit that like button, smash that like button, hit it so many times you break it for tonight's postcast. And we'll have our 3 things recap for you coming up tomorrow, as well as getting you ready for Friday or Saturday's game against the Philadelphia Flyers. We'll see how Denny's doing. If I've got an update for you, I'll pass it along, and we'll let you know when the next live show is. But other than that, enjoy the rest of your nights. Minnesota Wild 5-0-2 after a 4-2 win, and 12 out of 14 points. Elite start. And so, we'll see what happens. And we'll keep you covered with new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.